My name's George Whitaker. I'm 59 years old, a retired factory foreman who put in 37 years at the same plant until the machines finally got quieter than my knees. These days, my life's simple. Black coffee at dawn, tending the small patch of tomatoes out back, and playing dominoes on Fridays at the VFW hall. Nothing glamorous, but it's mine. And after losing my wife Carol to cancer 5 years ago, I hold on tight to the routines that keep me steady. That's why the first letter made no sense. Thick white envelope, glossy logo of a major insurance company. "Thank you for choosing us to secure your family's future," it read. My name printed across the top, policy number, beneficiary information, except I'd never signed anything, never applied for any insurance, and sure as hell never authorized $500,000 worth of premiums. I figured it was a mistake, some clerical error. I tossed it in a drawer with the junk mail, but the second letter came 2 weeks later, stamped past due. Then the third, with red ink screaming final notice before cancellation. That Friday, I was on my porch with my coffee when the phone rang. Unknown number. The man on the other end spoke like we'd been friends for years. "Mr. Whitaker, this is about your $500,000 life insurance policy. We've noticed the last premium hasn't been received. Did you want to update your payment method today?" I nearly dropped the receiver. "What policy?" I asked. Silence stretched. Then the voice got smooth, practiced. "Sir, the policy in your name, taken out last spring. You're listed as the insured. Your brother, Daniel Whitaker, is the beneficiary." My hand went cold around the phone. Daniel, my own younger brother, wasn't supposed to know a damn thing about my finances, and if this was true, he'd signed my name to something that only pays off when I'm dead. The man cleared his throat. "Mr. Whitaker, do you want to settle the overdue balance today?" I hung up without answering. My coffee had gone cold. For the first time since I retired, the quiet around my house didn't feel like peace. It felt like someone had just drawn a circle around me, and I was standing dead center. That night, I pulled the letters back out of the drawer and read them under the kitchen light. At the bottom of the third notice was a handwritten note in blue ink. "Call me if he asks questions. D.W." Sunday dinners had been a Whitaker tradition since Mom was alive. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, laughter over the table. But lately, they felt more like board meetings, where Daniel sat at the head without permission. My daughter Emily still came by, setting out silverware the way her mother used to, while Daniel swaggered in late, talking loud about business deals nobody asked to hear. That afternoon, I slid the insurance letters across the table between us. "Care to explain these?" I asked, my voice low but steady. Daniel glanced once, barely flinched, then smirked. "About time you saw those. Smart move, really. $500,000 in coverage. When you go, your family's taken care of. You should be thanking me." "By forging my name?" My hands curled into fists. "That's a felony, Dan." He leaned back, popping a carrot in his mouth like it was nothing. "Felony, schmelony. Who's gonna prove anything? You've never been good with paperwork." Could have been a simple mistake. Emily froze halfway to the sink. "Uncle Dan, did you really?" "Stay out of this, kid," Daniel snapped, then turned back to me. "Look, George, you're pushing 60. Heart problems run in our family. You've got no wife, no big savings. What's wrong with making sure somebody benefits when your number's called?" My chest burned hotter than the coffee I'd left untouched that morning. "Somebody? You mean you?" He chuckled. "Who else is responsible enough to handle that kind of money? Emily? She's still paying off student loans. You'd waste it all on tomatoes and veterans' beer nights." Emily slammed the sink shut. Don't talk to him like that. Daniel waved her off, eyes locked on mine, daring me to swing. Relax, Georgie. Policies get canceled all the time. Unless, of course, you keep making noise about it. Then maybe the company digs deeper. They'll find your shaky signature. And who do you think they'll believe? The retired foreman who can't keep his books straight. Or me, the guy who's managed accounts for 20 years. I stood so fast my chair toppled. You crossed a line you can't uncross. Daniel's grin widened. Then do something about it, brother. Otherwise, shut up and enjoy dinner. Emily looked at me, eyes wide, waiting for my response. I picked up the letters, folded them slow, and slipped them back into my jacket pocket. My voice came out quiet, but sharp as a blade. This is just the beginning. 2 nights later, I drove to Daniel's place. Ranch house out on Maple Drive, shiny truck in the driveway, porch light glowing like a stage spotlight. I didn't call ahead. I wanted him off guard. He opened the door wearing a golf shirt, holding a tumbler of whiskey. Brother, he said too loud, grinning like we were still kids sharing bunk beds. Come to patch things up? I pushed past him into the living room. The walls were lined with framed certificates, business licenses, awards, plaques that meant nothing but looked impressive. My forged name didn't hang there, but I could feel it in the air, written in invisible ink. Cut the act, Dan, I said, planting the letters on his glass coffee table. You forged my signature. You made me the insured and put yourself as the beneficiary. You planning to cash in when I keel over? His smile faded, just a flicker, then returned sharper. You've always been dramatic, George. Why would I want you dead? You're my brother. Then why the hell is your handwriting all over a policy with my name on it? I shot back. He swirled the whiskey, eyes narrowing. Do you have proof? Real proof? Or just your word against mine? Silence stretched. The only sound was ice clinking against glass. He leaned forward, voice low. Think carefully. You stir this pot, people will start asking why. Maybe they'll wonder if you're slipping, losing memory, confusing documents. You sure you want that on your record, old man? I felt my jaw tighten. Old man. He'd said it with the same mocking tilt he used when we were teenagers. Back then, it was just words. Now, it was a knife. I leaned across the table, close enough to smell the whiskey. You think I'm too tired to fight you? He didn't blink. I think you're too alone. Those words landed heavier than any punch. Alone. My daughter in her own world. My wife gone. Friends scattered. He thought I had nobody. He thought I'd just fold. I stood slowly, my chair scraping the hardwood. His eyes followed me, waiting for me to back down. Instead, I stepped closer until the tips of our shoes nearly touched. You know what I think, Dan? I asked, voice low, steady, sharper than the edge of his glass. He raised an eyebrow, smirking like he already won. What's that, Georgie? I let the silence hang, then whispered, How long have you been planning my death? By the following week, the story had spread, though not the truth, only Daniel's version. At the grocery store, 2 neighbors gave me that look, the kind that slides over you like you're contagious. At the post office, Mrs. Grant whispered just loud enough, Such a shame, George losing his mind like that. It didn't take long to piece it together. Daniel was painting me as unstable, senile, even paranoid. He told folks I'd accused him of plotting against me, that I was confusing paperwork and imagining signatures. George has been under a lot of stress, he said, putting on that practiced sigh of concern. Losing Carol hit him harder than we thought. It cut deep. Carol was sacred ground, not fodder for his lies. One night, my daughter Emily stopped by. She hesitated in the doorway, eyes red. "Dad, Uncle Dan says you've been confused. He told me you stormed into his house accusing him of crazy things. What's going on?" I swallowed hard. The last thing I wanted was my own daughter doubting me. I pulled out the letters, laid them on the table. "Look for yourself. Those aren't my signatures. That's his handwriting. He wants $500,000 when I'm gone." Emily stared at the papers, lips trembling. "But why would he?" Before I could answer, headlights swept across the window. A knock followed. It was Tom Haskins, my old friend from the plant, retired like me, gray at the temples, still sharp as a tack. He looked between me and Emily, then down at the letters on the table. "Got your message, George," he said. "And I believe you." Emily blinked. "Believe him? Uncle Dan says Dad's confused." Tom pulled a small notepad from his jacket, flipping it open. "Your uncle's been asking around about you, George. Dropped by VFW last week, tried to feel out if you'd been forgetful. Sounded rehearsed to me." I smelled something foul. He tapped the notepad. So I started writing things down. I felt a jolt of relief. Finally, someone in my corner. Tom had always been steady, no nonsense. The kind of man you'd trust to hold a line when everything else broke. Emily looked between us, torn. "So you think Uncle Dan forged these papers?" Tom didn't hesitate. "I don't think. I know the look of a setup when I see it, and George isn't crazy. Someone is trying to erase him." The words settled heavy in the room. For the first time since this all began, I didn't feel entirely alone. Tom leaned forward, voice low. "George, if we're going to prove this, we'll need more than letters. We'll need real evidence. And I've got an idea where to start." The following week was the hardest I'd lived through since Carol's funeral. Emily stopped calling. She didn't say she believed Daniel, but silence was worse than outright doubt. At church, people offered stiff smiles, then turned away before conversation could start. Daniel's lies were working, painting me as an old man losing grip on reality. I came home one evening to find my front door lock changed. My own key wouldn't fit. A note taped to the door in Daniel's handwriting. "For your safety, we'll sort this out soon. DW." For my safety. He'd locked me out of the home I'd lived in 30 years, where Carol's handprints were still on the kitchen walls. I ended up at a diner on Main Street, eating meatloaf alone while families filled the booths around me. My meal went cold as I stared at the ring on my finger, the wedding band I still wore even though she'd been gone half a decade. My brother wanted me erased, written out as if I was already dead. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe that's how everyone else saw me too. An old man marking time. The waitress, a kid no older than 19, topped off my coffee without a word. She didn't know me, didn't care about the whispers. For a moment, I envied her. Back in my truck, parked under the diner's flickering neon sign, I sat gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. I thought about Carol, about how she'd never forgive me if I let Daniel win. But the weight of the empty house, the silent phone, and the locked door pressed down until even breathing felt like a chore. I was losing my family, my reputation, my dignity. And worst of all, I could feel Daniel enjoying every inch of it. That night, just as I slumped into the driver's seat ready to give up, my phone buzzed with a message from Tom. "Meet me tomorrow. I found something you need to see." Tom slid into the booth at Miller's Diner the next morning, setting a small folder between us like it weighed 100 pounds. His coffee steamed, but his eyes never left mine. "You look like hell, George," he said flatly. "That's what Daniel wants. He wants you broken before you even fight back." I didn't argue. I just pushed the folder closer. "What did you find?" He opened it to reveal copies, bank withdrawal slips, scans of documents. "Your brother's been sloppy. He moved cash from your joint family trust into a private account last spring, right around the time this insurance mess started." My stomach tightened. That's Carol's trust. Money meant for Emily. Exactly. Tom jabbed a finger at the papers. "He's not just after your death benefit. He's bleeding you dry while you're alive. That's why he's trying to discredit you. So when the smoke clears, everyone thinks old George just misplaced his own fortune." I leaned back, feeling the diner's cracked vinyl dig into my shoulders. All the whispers, the locked door, Emily's doubt. It all fit now. Daniel wasn't just greedy. He wanted me erased on paper and in memory. Tom leaned closer. "But here's the thing. You're not erased yet. You're breathing, you're talking to me, and you've got enough fight left to turn this around if you choose to." I stared at the papers, heart pounding. For the first time in weeks, the weight pressing me down felt like it could be lifted. Carol's voice echoed in my head, the way she used to nudge me when I hesitated. "Don't you dare let someone else write your ending." I closed the folder slowly, sliding it back toward Tom. My voice was steady now. "If Daniel wants me erased, he picked the wrong man. I'm going to fight." Tom nodded, a grim smile tugging his mouth. "Good, because I've got a plan, and you're going to need every ounce of grit you've got left." I drained my coffee, hands steady at last. "Then let's make a list of everything we'll need to bury my brother with the truth." We made the plan on a pad of paper in Tom's truck, the engine idling low while the sun tracked across the lot. Tom talked like a man who'd kept logs and signed for parts for 40 years. Clear, practical, no wasted words. I listened and took it down, line by line. "Step 1, Tom said, tapping his pen against the yellow margin. "Certified bank statements. You need them stamped by the bank, not photocopies. We show money went out of your account into an account that's not yours. Paper trail kills nerves." "I can get that," I said. "But the bank's been helpful so far?" Tom shrugged. "You know people. I'll nudge old Pete at the credit union. He owes me favors." "Step 2, handwriting," Tom continued. "We get an expert. Compare your signature to the signature on the policy application and the loan form they used. If it's forged, a pro will say so under oath." "And the cost?" I asked. "Worth every penny if it keeps you fed and the house over your head," Tom replied. "Step 3, record them." Tom smiled the smallest smile I'd seen in weeks. "You bait Daniel. Get him talking. Men like him brag. We plant a simple recorder at family dinners, lawful in our state if one party consents. You're one party. He'll say something stupid about the policy, about payments, about moving money. We catch him on tape." My chest tightened at the thought. But Tom was right. Bragging men never learn until they're under oath. "Step 4, he said, flipping another page. "Call Margaret Carter, union lawyer. She handled a pension case for us 5 years back. She'll know how to file injunctive relief fast. Freeze that account before another premium clears or funds vanish into thin air." "I don't want a messy courtroom fight if we can avoid it," I said. "You don't get to pick neat when a man steals your name and your future," Tom answered bluntly. "We hit quick and hard. Injunction, criminal referral, and public records showing the fraud. Then we let the law do the rest." "Step 5, he added quietly. "Witnesses. People who can say you never authorized anything. neighbors who saw Daniel making late-night calls, the VFW bartender who overheard him brag. Names matter. Tom's list ran long and practical. It felt like building a scaffold underneath me so I wouldn't fall. We boxed the plan up in timelines, 3 days for bank statements, a week to line up the handwriting expert, baiting Daniel at the next family meal, filing with Carter the day after we had the first recording. Each step fed the next. Each step closed another door. When we finished, the list sat between us like a loaded tool. Tom tapped the final line. Execute, no mercy. He exhaled, then pushed the pad across. You ready to start? He asked. I looked at the words, at my name written at the top, and thought of Carol and the ledger she used to keep. My jaw tightened into something like resolve. Ready, I said. Tom's phone buzzed. He glanced down, face changing from grin to stone. It's a photo, he said. Sent from an unknown number. It's your mailbox. Someone left a key under the mat. The next morning I drove to First County Credit Union, Tom riding shotgun with his notepad. My stomach twisted as we walked past the glass doors, like stepping into a courtroom already. Pete, the branch manager, was older now, balding with a permanent frown. But when he saw Tom, his expression cracked into recognition. Didn't think I'd see you again, Pete said, shaking Tom's hand. What's this about? Tom leaned in. It's about fraud, Pete. Family fraud. We need certified copies of transactions from March through May. Account ending in 6,729. Pete hesitated. That's sensitive material. It's my account, I cut in, slapping my ID and checkbook on the counter. And I never authorized what's in there. I want the records, stamped and sealed. 15 minutes later, I held a stack of papers so heavy it nearly bent the manila folder. Every page bore my name. Every withdrawal marked with Daniel's fingerprints in ink. Cash pulled out in round numbers. $5,000, $7,500, $10,000. Always midday. Always while I was working at the plant. Pete cleared his throat. George, I'll be honest. I remember seeing Daniel here once or twice. He said he was helping you with paperwork. I didn't think much of it. My jaw clenched. He wasn't helping. He was stealing. We left the bank, and Tom whistled low. That's strike one. That evening, Tom slid another document across my kitchen table. A copy of the actual insurance application he'd pulled through a contact at the county clerk's office. My heart thudded when I saw it. My name scrawled across the bottom in shaky, uneven letters. Not my square, steady print. Not the hand that had signed thousands of time cards and shift logs. Tom laid a magnifying glass over the page. Sloppy work. Beck and Whitaker doesn't match yours. Hell, even the loop in the G is Daniel's. Any handwriting expert worth their salt will tear this apart. I sat there staring at the page until the letters blurred. Proof. Actual proof. For weeks it had been my word against Daniel's lies. Now I held iron in my hands. I pressed the folder shut, heart hammering. So what's next? Tom leaned back, eyes steady. Next we make him talk, at the table, on record. One slip of the tongue and he's done. That's when my phone buzzed with a new voicemail, from Daniel's number. His voice crackled through the speaker. George, you're making a mistake. Don't dig where you shouldn't. You won't like what you find. The Sunday dinner table didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a stage. Emily sat stiff on one side, eyes darting between me and Daniel. Tom had joined us under the guise of an old family friend dropping by, a quiet witness. Daniel carved the roast with exaggerated ease, talking about golf scores and new trucks. but his eyes kept flicking toward the manila folder in my hand. He knew. I waited until Emily reached for the mashed potatoes. Then I laid the folder flat in the middle of the table and opened it. Bank statements, withdrawal slips, the forged insurance application. The room froze. "What's this?" Emily whispered. "Proof," I said. My voice was steady, louder than I expected. "Proof your uncle forged my signature, drained our trust, and set up a $500,000 policy with himself as the only beneficiary." Daniel's laugh was quick, brittle. "Don't be ridiculous. Anyone can fake documents. Maybe you printed these off your old work computer." Tom leaned forward, eyes like steel. "Certified copies, Daniel. Sealed and stamped at the credit union. Pulled through county records. That's not George's hand on those signatures, but it sure as hell is yours." Emily's face drained of color. "Uncle Dan, tell me this isn't true." Daniel slammed the knife down, the blade clattering against porcelain. "You don't understand how business works. I was protecting the family, making sure there was a safety net. If George keeled over tomorrow, what would you live on? His pension, spare change from tomatoes." I pushed the papers closer across the gravy stains. "You're not protecting anyone. You're setting me up for death. And worse, you dragged Emily's future through the mud to do it." Daniel's jaw clenched. He leaned across the table until his breath brushed my face. "You think a few pieces of paper scare me? You want to drag this into court? Fine. But who do you think they'll believe? Me, the respected businessman with clean records, or you, the bitter widower who can't tell a clerical error from reality?" For the first time, his voice cracked. Emily noticed. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in weeks. Doubt toward him, not me. Tom slid a small black recorder from his pocket, clicking it on the table with a sharp snap. "Funny thing, Dan. This state allows one-party recordings. You might want to choose your next words carefully." Silence slammed into the room. Daniel's face drained, then flushed crimson. He opened his mouth, then shut it. He grabbed his coat off the chair and stormed toward the door, muttering, "You'll regret this, George. You don't know who you're up against." 2 days after that dinner, the war began in earnest. The first shot was a voicemail. Daniel's voice low, calculated, each word like a nail driven into wood. "George, you've embarrassed me for the last time. If you keep dragging my name through the mud, you'll end up in a place where nobody believes a damn thing you say. Think about that before you go running to lawyers." The second shot came by mail. A plain envelope slipped into my box with no return address. Inside, photocopies of old medical forms from when I'd been checked for high blood pressure years back, circled in red. A post-it note slapped across the page read, "Unfit, unstable, easy to prove." I sat at the kitchen table staring at those words when Emily walked in. She'd been quiet since the dinner, but now her voice trembled with anger. "He's trying to frame you, Dad. Uncle Dan's saying you're too sick in the head to know what you signed." Before I could answer, a knock rattled the door. Standing there was Margaret Carter, Tom's old union lawyer, sharp-eyed and holding a leather briefcase. "Tom filled me in," she said without ceremony, walking straight to the table. "I've seen men like your brother before, paper pushers who think they can bury family with forged signatures and intimidation. You've got more than enough for a preliminary injunction." I handed her the bank folder. She flipped through the pages quickly, nodding. "Certified copies, notarized seals. Good. The forged application is damning, especially with a handwriting expert. Add the voicemail and that post-it, and we've got evidence of intent to defraud and intimidate a witness." Emily sank into a chair, relief flickering in her eyes. For the first time, she saw I wasn't alone. Margaret snapped her briefcase shut. Next step, I'll draft an emergency motion to freeze the accounts Daniel's been moving money through. If he tries to cash in, it'll bounce back. After that, we coordinate with county prosecutors. He wants to play dirty. Let's drag him into the light. I leaned back, the weight on my chest easing just a fraction. For weeks, I'd felt like a ghost in my own life. Now I had Tom taking notes and Margaret carrying law books like weapons. My brother wasn't just facing me anymore. He was facing a wall he couldn't shove over. That night, as Margaret left, Emily clutched my arm. "Dad," I checked my voicemail. "Uncle Dan left me one too. He said if I keep siding with you, I'll lose more than just a family name." By Thursday, Daniel's swagger started to crack. He'd called Emily twice more, this time slurring his words like he'd been drinking. Each voicemail was angrier than the last, one ending with, "If your old man drags me down, he's dragging you too." Tom caught me pacing the kitchen, fists clenched. "He's rattled," he said. "That means he's careless. Careless men leave trails." Margaret arrived with fresh documents, a preliminary freeze order signed by a county judge. "Effective immediately," she said, sliding the stamped paper across the table. "Daniel can't touch those accounts without tripping alarms. If he tries, we'll know." It was the first real breath of victory I'd felt. That night, Emily knocked on my bedroom door, holding something in her hand. "Dad," she whispered. "I went by Uncle Dan's office. He left his planner out on the desk. I took photos." She handed me her phone. Dozens of snapshots filled the screen. Daniel's black leather day planner, pages covered in his blocky handwriting. Names, numbers, notes, and one page circled in thick ink. Policy, GW, payout $500K, Cayman transfer. The sight of it made my blood run cold. Proof, undeniable. Not just a forged signature, his own notes, written without fear anyone would ever see them. Tom leaned over my shoulder, whistling low. "That's it. That's the nail. You've got intent, motive, plan. Hell, you could hand this to the sheriff tonight and watch him sweat." Emily's voice shook. "I didn't know what else to do, Dad. I couldn't sit by anymore." I put my hand over hers. "Steady. You did right, sweetheart. This is what saves us." Margaret's eyes sharpened. "With this planner and the financials, the DA has everything they need. Daniel can scream about clerical errors all day. His own handwriting destroys him." For the first time, Daniel's fortress of lies had a hole big enough to drive a truck through. The weight shifted, and I could feel it. The power wasn't his anymore. It was mine. Margaret snapped a photo of the planner page and looked me dead in the eye. "Tomorrow morning, we walk into court. By sundown, your brother's empire starts to burn." The courthouse smelled of polish and dust, like every fight I'd ever had to win the hard way. Margaret led the charge, Tom at my side, Emily just behind us, clutching her phone like a shield. Across the aisle, Daniel sat in a cheap suit, sweat already beading under the collar. His lawyer, some junior type who looked more nervous than his client, shuffled papers that couldn't possibly save him. The judge looked over the evidence one piece at a time. Certified bank statements, withdrawal slips with my name but not my hand. The insurance application, complete with the shaky forgery. And finally, Emily's photos of Daniel's planner. The page circled in black ink. Policy GW payout $500K, Cayman transfer, seemed to echo in the courtroom air. Mr. Whitaker, the judge asked, did you sign any of these documents? I stood. No, Your Honor. My brother forged them. Daniel shot to his feet. He's lying. He's confused. He's always been. Margaret's voice cut like steel. Sit down, Mr. Whitaker. Your own handwriting damns you. The notes in this planner were authenticated by a forensic examiner this morning. They match your samples, not George's. You can't explain that away. The judge's gavel hit once, sharp. Enough. He turned to Daniel. Forgery, fraud, attempted theft of assets. Effective immediately. The accounts are frozen. The insurance policy voided. And this matter referred to the district attorney for prosecution. You'll be remanded pending charges. Gasps filled the room. Emily squeezed my arm, tears sliding down her cheek. Not of grief, but of release. Daniel sagged back into his chair, face drained of all that smugness, all that false control. For the first time in his life, he looked small. The deputies flanked him, cuffs clicking around his wrists. As they led him past, he spat, "You'll regret this, George." I didn't even rise from my seat. "No, brother, you will." Tom clapped my shoulder. Margaret allowed herself the faintest smile. Emily leaned into me, whispering, "It's over, Dad. You did it." For years, Daniel had treated me like the shadow of a man, easy to erase. But under the fluorescent lights of that courtroom, with the truth on paper and the law behind me, I'd erased him instead. Outside on the courthouse steps, cameras were waiting, reporters shouting questions, microphones shoved forward. Emily looked at me, uncertain. I adjusted my jacket, stepped up to the cluster of microphones, and cleared my throat. "You want the truth? I've got a folder full of it." The case didn't drag on long. With Daniel's planner, the bank statements, and the forged application, the district attorney had more than enough. He pled out before trial, trading years of prison time for a lighter sentence. But the damage was permanent. His reputation was gone, his business license revoked, and every dime he thought he'd stolen was clawed back under restitution orders. I didn't celebrate when the cuffs closed on him. What I felt was something quieter. Relief. For the first time since Carol passed, I could sit in my kitchen, pour a cup of black coffee, and not feel like a ghost in my own home. Emily moved back into the house for a while, helping me repaint the living room, boxing up Carol's old recipe cards with care. Some nights we'd sit on the porch swing, just breathing in the summer air. She told me, "Dad, I never doubted your heart. I just needed proof for my eyes." That cut deep, but it also healed. We had both learned something about trust. Tom still checks in every Friday, same as always, bringing a six-pack and more stories than I can count. Margaret closed the case with a handshake that meant more than any verdict. You stood tall when most men would have folded. I chose not to hate Daniel anymore. Hate's just another lock, and I've had enough of those. Instead, I let the law finish what it started, and I walked forward lighter. I'm not erased, not forgotten. I'm George Whitaker, still here, still standing, still my own man. If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories Men, U55 America, because stories like mine deserve to be heard.